Hey, how's it going, guys? So maybe some of you guys are a little confused as to like what just happened with this video, because you're thinking like, wait, he already saw this video. So let me explain to it, and please hear me out before you just skip ahead towards the video. So yes, this was the very first Morphologis video I ever seen, and I know the #1 comments that people have been putting in my latest content are audio issues. And to be very clear, I'm not angry or anything like that, and I don't blame any one of you. Some videos for some reason did a lot better when it came to audio capture, especially if there was a lot of commentary like the inside star systems and a few things like that. But for some reason, some videos did not do very well. But like I said, I managed to fix the audio issue, and now I'm back in. Now I'm able to get better quality videos, because I know some of you guys said that you can't even watch the video because it is that bad. So like I said, again, I'm not angry and I don't blame any of you. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna rewatch this video again, and hopefully we can hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Now you guys are thinking like, but you already saw it, so there's nothing to react. Here's the thing. When I watched this video, it was more than a week ago, and a lot has happened between that week. I was out there in the field doing a lot of things, and then I had duty after that. And you know how like when you're so tired and fatigued that you like sleep like a rock for a few days, and then next thing you know, your memory of like whatever happened a week ago is a little hazy. That's really pretty much what's happening to me right now. So I do remember a few things about the yacht, maybe just a little bit of the interior, but I really don't remember much about the video. That's how tired I was. So I'm gonna rewatch this video again. Maybe some of it will come back as soon as I see it, like, oh yeah, that's right, or something like that. But either way, I'm gonna rewatch it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So this is a re-upload of the 890J Super Yacht. So without anything else, let's just jump right into it.
I once said that the 600i was the most beautiful ship in Star Citizen. Well, today, I think the 890 Jump has taken the crown. Hey guys, I'm Morphologis, and welcome back to an Architect Reviews, a show in which I utilize my professional skills in the field of architecture to critically examine...
What just happened? I think something happened with my internet just now.
Something in
Sorry
the
about that.
World. Today we're taking a look at Star Citizen's Super Yacht, the 200-meter long 890 Jump. If you've been following me for some time, you may have seen my review of the 600i, the 890's little brother. It was the first ship to utilize Origin's...
Wait, what ship is it?
The 890's following me for some time, you may have seen my review of the 600i.
Okay, so I haven't seen the 600i ship yet, review, because like I said, the Super Yacht is actually the very first video I'm seeing of Morphologis. So I'm not watching it in a chronological order. I'm just watching it from popular videos, and also just whatever catches my eye, to be honest. So 600i is on the list, but I just don't know when I'm gonna get to it. So that's a little fun fact to know, that the 600i is this ship's little brother, as he said.
The 890's design language, but it had its flaws. It struggled with balancing
everything has its
luxury
flaws.
and space, and its organization of those spaces, or program, was a bit problematic. So many were curious, including myself, how they were going to handle an even larger ship. Well, today, that's what we're going to check out. We'll be taking a look at it through the eyes of the user, the VIP guests and owner, as well as the second users, the crew.
I do remember saying, though, that I really want this ship for personal use.
Two different perspectives and two different use cases.
Origin.
And through their eyes,
I guess that's the name of the company.
Success or shortcomings of this design. Finally, at the end, I'll conclude with my closing thoughts about the success or failure of the design as a whole. So I hope you join me on this journey as we look at the next entry to Origin Jumpworks. The shape of the 890 Jump is very pure and powerful, taking on the more simplistic form of a wedge shape. This has also been used in the case of the Imperial Star Destroyers of Star Wars to convey subconscious power to the viewer. I think it does a good job of doing that here as well.
So far what I've been hearing from Morphologis when it comes to his reviews, he makes a lot of Star Wars references and connections, and personally I really like that, because if you guys have been following my channel for a while, Star Wars is one of my very favorite subjects. And actually, the most popular video on my channel right now is my reaction to the Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic trailers, which accumulated over, and I'm still in disbelief, over 100,000 views, which was crazy. So thank you to the algorithm. But I'm still curious as to like if there's any videos in my channel that will even come remotely close to that video, or maybe we can even outperform that video. Who knows? But so far, Star Citizen is the one subject that has been doing pretty well. So let's just continue.
Well, you can also see that they've carved some holes out of the edges, but extended the lines out to really emphasize that wedge shape. I'm a little bit torn on these holes, but they're kind of growing on me. I also really like how they employ a lot of layering. Layering is a strategy in visual design where you add multiple different layers of materials to add depth. Here they're using the white skin to wrap the darker colored mechanical components and only reveal those mechanical components where they're absolutely needed, such as here at the stern of the ship with these massive chevron pattern main thrusters. So the exterior is powerful and dramatic, but what about the interior space? We'll begin from the perspective of the VIP guests and owner. Likely they'll be entering through the docking ring. This ship is very large and most of the time it's going to be spending its time in space. And so this ingress point is going to be very important to make a good impression on guests. So procession and entry must be paid close attention to. Stepping through the threshold, it's immediately apparent to me that this has a connection to the same design language as was used in the 600i. I especially love how they seem.
I remember complimenting this hallway, like the lights going all around and the colors really match and it looks very elegant and beautiful.
Seamlessly integrate the lighting strategy
flawless
into that language through recesses in the wall.
Oh yeah, the marble floor.
Also note how the entry is changed here as we round the corner. You step up now into the next space, giving it prominence over the initial entry. Also notice the change in both floor and ceiling material. The ground is now a white marble with gold inlay, giving a sense of luxurious quality. The ceiling too is now black, visually compressing the space to provide contrast for the following space, the atrium. This contrast creates the effect of making that space feel even more grand than it might otherwise would have been. If you want to see how this is done in the real world, you can check out any large traditional church and you'll see that they employ the same strategy. Now earlier I mentioned a term called procession. I
really like that view. It looks beautiful.
Moves through three-dimensional space, and it plays a really big role in the way we consider the organizational strategy of those spaces, because you want to craft a procession that makes sense to the users, that both evokes emotion but also provides correct utilitarian function. You want people to know instinctually where to go through your design. So these beautifully crafted signs probably aren't necessary, but they're a wonderful addition that are very well integrated into the design. Now we talked a bit about emotion. Here you'll see some plants which are counterbalancing the otherwise very sterile feel of the white and black steel finishes surrounding this room. Also notice this different polished steel that denotes a different sort of space for the entry of the first berth. Now this waiting area directly across from the foyer is also very well considered, as this is likely where guests would want to wait for other guests to arrive. The likelihood of everybody arriving at once is pretty small. Now, stately stairs are always a very important design, especially in high-end architecture. Here, they've done a good job of integrating the stairs into the design language of origin, having them come off the floor and effortlessly sweep into the stairs that we use to get up to the second level, which is our next stop. Art and architecture can sometimes be used to create a device to inspire.
Personally, for me, if I had a choice of placing something in the middle there, like a statue, I would probably put, hear me out, I would probably put something either Star Wars or Halo or Warhammer 40K or maybe SCP Foundation or Star Citizen related in the middle. Something that was like on my channel. So maybe like a big statue of Darth Revan, or maybe a statue of Master Chief, or maybe the SCP Foundation logo or maybe the Star Citizen logo. Who knows? But that is something I would like to have in the middle, because it will show like what I like and my taste.
Pause or repose and thought in the user. Here I think it's just meant to denote wealth. The main thing I want to draw your attention to here, though, is this landing, which is an objective failure of this particular design. Everything else about it I love, but
that's right, the small space.
They could have easily fixed this issue just by lowering that upper landing 1 or 2 stairs. Now imagine trying to pass somebody in this tiny little landing. You've got 2 choices. Either you step off or up onto the stairs uncomfortably, or you squeeze past the person trying to get past you, which could cause you to trip, or them to trip. And that's just not very good design. Like I said, it's a shame because it's so easily fixed, and I really do hope if they do go back and fix some things in this ship, that this would be one of those things that they look into changing. Now, let's go back to the mindset of the user. We've just gotten onto the ship after maybe a long day of travel to get to the station to get onto this cruise ship. Your first stop is probably going to be a place to either use the bathroom or quench your thirst. And so the next place I'd likely go would not be to the berths here on the left and right, but instead to the bar or dining area to have our first meal. Now remember guys, people in this echelon of wealth would most likely...
Personally for me, I don't drink at all. Like, I don't touch alcohol, so the bar would be the one place I wouldn't go to. But however, if I'm serving it like for friends or maybe like business meetings or things like that, a bar is essential to have, so that way you could satisfy them. But however, if it was just my own personal or like private use and no one's ever going to come or be near it, then personally I would not have a bar. I probably would replace it with something else. Maybe like a game room. You know, like all my monitors and big monitors and maybe my consoles and PC and all that. So that way I can have a bigger room and maybe produce better quality content for you guys.
Likely have somebody be bringing their bags to their room, and so they wouldn't have to stop in the room themselves to drop off their stuff. That'd be done for them. What's also very common, especially in first and business class for traveling on airways, is for you to have your first meal shortly after boarding. And so guests would likely make their way to the formal dining room. Now, the initial ingress point we talked about wouldn't be the only way people might enter. VIP guests might also be shuttled directly to the ship through its distinct landing bay at the bow. Considering this is a pretty large ship that costs a lot to fly down in the atmosphere, it does make sense to have a ship that you could use to ferry passengers directly into this bay. And it's upon entry to this hangar that we discover the first design issue with its ingress point. Which direction do I choose to go? Pretty much all these doors are the same in my eyes, and seeing as how there are no directions on the floor or on the ceiling or on the walls, I'm left to guess, and the guesswork might lead me down, say, this crew hallway instead of the correct entry,
looks like the hangar,
which is on the far right. There is an argument to be made that there would be somebody waiting here to greet me if I'm a VIP guest, but let's just say that that's a bit of an excuse for not trying to find a way to make that entry a little bit more distinct. That being said, the designers at CIG did find a way to make the entry process still very beautiful. Even grates, such as right here, which are probably access panels for mechanicals, are beautifully done. So definitely a round of applause for that level of attention to detail. But back to the wayfinding issue. One possible solution would have been to have a window directly onto the hangar bay. That would have given a visual connection to both spaces, directing passengers where to go without thinking. Also, it would have been pretty cool. The design, though, is very successful. It has a great assemblage of materials. It's not too large, not too small.
That's a really fancy waiting lounge.
In wood, and the waiting lounge is very distinct and separate by being sunken into the floor. Transitioning out of the waiting lounge and into the hallway that's going to lead us to the upper decks, we're presented here with one of the best designed hallways on the ship. Although it's confined and it's really just a place to walk through, it's still very well considered. Somehow the design makes it feel larger than it is. If we continue just to the left, we're presented with the medical bay, which is also equally well considered, despite the fact that it's just a utilitarian function of the ship. One minor thing I don't like, though, is that there's no Star Trek-style seat for the medical officer to sit. That would have been kind of cool. Stepping out of the medical bay,
but hey, the med bay is something you should have.
I also point out the lighting strategy. Once again, they're finding a way to integrate the lighting into the design language of the ship. This is a really great way to think about lighting. Instead of just doing something tacked on, consider how it can be incorporated into the language to be seamless. And in this case, it's actually on the seams, which is pretty clever. Now, this elegant corridor is leading us to the vertical circulation, the elevator, but first there's an important detail I want to show you guys. Notice how the wood stops just before we step into the crew section. This is an excellent study in how you can tell a user without actually saying anything that this is not the direction you want to go if you're not a crew member. So, very good on...
Personally, for me, now this is just my personal preference. If I'm gonna have wood, the fact that it's completely white and all that, personally, I would like the wood to be like painted brown. I mean, not brown. it is brown. Painted black. Because for me, I like to have the contrast of like black and white. For me personally, like I said, the brown looks great as well. But if I had a choice, I would like to have the wood black.
Them for really considering how material can direct users without signage. As I said earlier, one of the first places I see users wanting to go is to the bar, and so it's quite fitting to see that this elevator will bring us precisely to that deck.
Okay, so
Bars
that's a
are
good
social gathering areas and requires the designer to
location
understand
for the
different
elevator.
scales of user interaction. Not only that,
by the way, that's a really fancy bar.
the designer has to understand things like acoustics and traffic. Here they've really well located things like booths and standing/seating areas in, I think, very good areas. The standing areas are where there's going to be the most amount of traffic, and the seating areas are on the periphery where you can have more intimate and quiet conversations. Well, as quiet as you could possibly have in a bar. The space also isn't over-panelized. It's done just in a way where you could conceivably see this being built in the real world, albeit at an obscenely high cost. Now let's move into the formal dining area. This is an important section because eating is an important human ceremony. It often involves things like business deals, and seeing as how this is a
part of the day
made
too
for people of that sort of socio-economic level,
I really like this design.
We want to see something that was designed specifically well enough to impress guests on the ship and perhaps give them a bit of an edge to score that deal. It's also pretty important to consider where you locate the formal dining room. You want to make it central.
I just want to point this out. I do remember this because this is one of the comments that my member put on the old Super Yacht review video. For the table, I said I would prefer the table to be either all white or all black. He suggested an all gold table. I mean, hey, it looks pretty fancy, but I don't know. For me, I'd rather have something that would like match the interior. And so for me personally, I would rather have it all black because one, it matches the chairs and you can see the black in the background and all that. But if it was all white, I'm fine with that too. But for me personally, I would like to have an all black table. Maybe have it made out of wood or marble. Well, then again, I'm not an interior design expert or anything like that.
But you also want to give it a really good view. You want to celebrate it, and this space is particularly well celebrated. Though I'm personally not that much of a fan of the wood they selected for the table, though I think using the wood was a nice thought. Wood brings warmth to the space, but this particular color finish could have been a bit more muted. It's a bit too orange and loud for my taste and reminds me too much of cheap corporate America business meeting tables. The ceiling plane is also treated very well.
Sorry guys, I touched the mouse.
I've seen pop up throughout the ship, tying things together, but also the fact that it's raised and is used to introduce light to the room is a really good thought. Step ceilings are often used in the real world to introduce lighting, but also to give prominence to particular parts of the space. Though people don't look at the ceiling, it's something that we subconsciously acknowledge that directs our attention to a specific area. But now guests have filled themselves on their 10-course meal, surely filled with exotic foods, and it's time to unwind with a glass of brandy and maybe a cigar. They may retire to the bar, but more likely they're going to want to go somewhere a little bit more domestic and relaxed, and I think the atrium is a great place for that. And that's exactly where CIG has placed a communal seating area. They're well located just outside of the circulation path, and there's an assemblage of small to larger seating areas for different scales of conversation. Some of them are directed inward, whereas others are directed out towards the sure-to-be amazing view. In this case, we're overlooking the city planet of ArtCorp. There are really only two issues I see here. First of all, the floor material is hard, so there's going to be a lot of echo here, and having intimate conversations might be kind of difficult when you have people sitting right next to you. And this is a big space, so there could be a lot of echoes already from conversations on the lower level. The other thing is that these seats are very visually heavy. I think it comes down to the base being a little bit too thick and inelegant. I would replace these seats right away. All too often, furniture...
I mean, so basically what I got from it, sorry guys, someone was messaging me. So basically what I took away from this part where he was giving feedback is basically replace the floor, well, not replace the floor completely, but try to do something that would like soundproof the room just a little bit, because I get it, and I do understand. If there's going to be multiple people in the room, you would like to have conversations that would only reach to the person that you're talking to, not to the whole room for everyone to hear and listen to. And it could get very noisy. I'm speaking from experience, from being in those kind of rooms. So I do understand that. And for me personally, the chairs, actually, let me retract that. The chairs are fine. But yeah, have something that would soundproof the room just a little bit more.
And inelegant. I would replace these seats right away. All too often, furniture is overlooked as secondary to the design of architecture, but in reality, everything's pretty equal. Now on the 600i, there was a lot of wasted space where they just left it open for really nothing to be done with it. But here on the 890 Jump, it seems like they really thought through these spaces. So here in the corner, we've got a nice little intimate seating area, which I think provides a nice contrast to the more open seating area we just looked at. It might have been a little bit better to give the pathway around a little bit more breathing space, but I think it's great just as it is. After my cigar and brandy, I may want to retire for the evening before I
don't
go down
smoke
to
or
the
drink,
spa.
so I'm probably going to have something else.
I'm the owner of the ship, so I'll probably come here to the master suite. And the immediate thing we see after entering this space is an interstitial waiting area with great views to both above and to the rear of the ship. This may also be used as a waiting area for people waiting to meet with the owner of the ship, who would be located in his office directly down the stairs and to the left. We'll go there shortly. I really like this material on the back wall here. It looks like it's some sort of acoustic corrugated material, and once again, they're integrating lighting into the design in a very elegant way. The stairs are consistent with the design language, and of course we have this beautiful stonework with the gold veining once again. But one of the best things they do in this space is locate the window directly across from the entry, which extends space outward. This is something I like to do in the real world. Always have a window at the end of a hallway or corridor. When you enter through a door, it makes the space feel larger, and it includes the exterior as part of that world. Directly to the left of the giant window is the captain's ready room, or you can just call it the owner's main office. Now for me, Star Trek The Next Generation made me love the captain's ready room, because that's where all the really important conversations happen. And so I'm glad to see that they've treated this quite well. The space has hierarchy where it should.
Actually, this came back just a little bit now. Now I'm looking at this room again. One thing I mentioned is, since this is belonging to the owner or captain of the ship, his chair should be different. I mean, look at it. Do you still see those three chairs? I mean, two of them are for the guests, so I do understand for that. But however, the captain's chair should be at least different. Maybe a little bit more, what's the right word? I don't want to say more expensive, but maybe more elegant, or more, just like something showing a little bit more authority, or just at least a different design or something like that, you know, because it's your room. So you got to show your, presence. There we go. Like a little bit stronger or different presence compared to those other two chairs. That's just the only thing I said. I remember.
The center of the room is the most well-lit area. It's a warmer lighting. As I've said in the past, it adds a bit more intimacy to the space, and the floor is treated also very differently by having a circle around that meeting area. The bookshelf adds a bit more of a worldly touch to it, and the piece of art is also nice. Things I would change about it, though, would be the seats. Once again, they're a bit too heavy, and maybe the captain's chair would be a bit more important by being taller or a completely different make. The floor as well could be carpet here instead of this steel paneling to give it a bit more acoustic comfort. Now we make our way into the master suite, which is, I think, pretty well done. They seem to be doing a good job of balancing the busy nature of the design language with making the spaces still feel simplistic, in a good way. But also notice that the materials here are lighter. The wood on the floor is a lighter finish, making it feel a little bit more airy. Remember, as I said earlier, darker colors can make a space feel smaller, so it's good that they did that here in the master suite. Now this white wall behind the bed is actually supposed to be a screen, and so in future, they've said that this is going to show things like forests and what have you, and I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I like that.
The bed design, once again, is very integrated into the design with the sweeping lines going from the ceiling, from the stairs, and then becoming both the bed back post as well as the side tables. It would have been cool to see a bit of a comm link here with the bridge in case there was an emergency, but we can overlook that small issue. Now instead, I want to look at the largest issue I see with this room.
Oh yeah, like maybe having, for me personally, I would like put my phone and maybe like a charger on one side, and the other side, as he said, like maybe a comm link and maybe a clock, something like that. And maybe, I wouldn't say lamps. I was going to say lamp, but then again, you got a big white screen on in the background, so that's already pretty lit. But those are some things that I would like to have as well. And maybe on the top of the frame, maybe put some like my personal items on there. So maybe just, you know, dress it up a little bit more to my taste.
And it really comes down to understanding the clientele of the ship. The storage space for the master suite is way too tiny. You cannot fit as many outfits as you could imagine people like this.
Oh yeah, I remember that short.
I mean, I would imagine they'd be
not short,
small
closet area,
suitcases of clothing changes, and this is just not enough room. At minimum, you want a walk-in closet for people of this class level, and unfortunately, this really isn't going to cut it. This is a shortcoming of a designer who maybe has not been in that world. Now, personally, I haven't either, but seeing as how I've worked with clients who are in that world, I do understand the amount of room that they usually demand for their clothing. And yes, it's obscene, but we have to remember that that's who we're catering to with this design. And so we should have had a walk-in closet, maybe in the same place as the bathroom, but on the opposite side of the room. Stepping into the master bathroom, we're presented with the second issue with the master suite. Now on its own, it's a really good bathroom, but it's the same bathroom as in the other suites on the ship. It should have been a bit more prominent. Now that's not to say I don't appreciate it. I think it's very well designed and comfortably sized. I also really like the two rain heads, the smaller one and the entire ceiling.
I mean, it is a fancy bathroom.
Being a shower head, but it doesn't have two vanities, which is the biggest issue I see.
Oh, just one sink.
So you see, right now, standard is for very high-end homes to have at least two vanities so that the two people, the owner and significant other, would have a place to use the bathroom together. I know it sounds silly, but this is fairly standard on high-end homes today, especially multi-million-dollar ones. Now let's make our way into the master suite private dinette, which I think is a really thoughtful addition. I imagine that the owner of the ship may be bringing, you know, customers or maybe even business partners on the trip with them, and this may be a trip to discuss future deals. And so having a place to gather your thoughts and maybe spend some time with your family in a private setting without having the pressure of being right in front of those clients might be a little bit more comfortable for the...
I mean, it makes sense. You would want your own private area of everything. Since you are the owner and it's your ship, you know, some areas got to be off limits to certain people unless you authorize, but that's really cool. And look in the background, look at all those food and drinks stored. Man, dude, that looks amazing. I wish I had something like that. I mean, right now with where I am at the barracks, I'm only limited to one small fridge. I mean, like a fridge. I mean, it's not even that big too. A fridge and a freezer. And on top of that, I got to share half of it with my roommate. But, I mean, he has the same taste as me, and he doesn't really pack it as much as I do. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. He packs it as much as I do. I don't know why I said not as much. But, however, it's not like filled to the brim. But, I mean, it does meet our needs and everything. And we do share food because he's got the same taste as me.
The user. So I really appreciate that they thought that out and gave a private dinette to this suite. I'd also like to praise the designer here for their careful attention to the temperature of the lights. This is something that was overlooked, I think, on the 600i, where all of them were pretty cold. Visual warmth is important for a space to feel comfortable for the user. Usually we use 3500K in relaxed settings like domestic home settings and higher temperatures in places where you're working. But there is a bit of a strange problem with this space, and it may just have been a complete oversight, and that's how the floor material changes very suddenly.
Oh yeah, right there.
Which is kind of impossible. I mean, I guess you could...
To be honest, I thought that was a lighting thing at first, but no, it was a color of the wood thing.
Do it, but it's really weird. So I hope that they change this and just make it all that one solid, warm red oak color. But what about the other suites that are for the other VIP guests? Well, let's move on to those. Now, they're all identical, so we'll only take a look at one through this wonderfully crafted door. Immediately,
yeah, the door looks expensive too. That thing looks looks like it's worth more than my car.
To sit and wait for others to arrive to have a small, more intimate meeting in your quarters. They treat the ceiling again very well. It's a common theme we're seeing now in the ship, always paying attention both to the floor and ceiling design. The floor doesn't disappoint either. They're using wood once again, giving the space a much more domestic feeling, and the bed here with the screen is really gorgeous. If you'll remember in the beginning of this video, I had a pretty cool shot of it, and I really like the way they designed it. I also like that they thought of a place to sit and do business, and that little desk there, and finally, the water tank is a nice little touch. It's definitely not...
For me personally, if I was VIP onto that yacht, I would be very, very pleased. Now, for me personally, instead of an aquarium in the private section, not for the VIP section, like my own personal private section, instead of an aquarium, I want to have a wall display of guns and knives. I just want a display of weapons. That's just for me personally. I like to look at them, and also, you know, protection-wise. So if anything happens, I'll have a weapon close by. That's me personally, and I think it'll be easier to maintain and clean rather than a huge aquarium, in my opinion.
Not necessary, but it does.
What would you guys put if you had a wall like that? Would you have it as an aquarium, or would you put something else on there, like me?
Add a sense of opulence to the space that might not have otherwise been there. While the owner and guests may retire for the evening, some will probably choose to now go to the spa to unwind for the evening before heading off to bed. In design, architecture plays a big role in the way a space feels, but lighting too can have a massive impact. Here, for example, in the spa, instead of using harsh direct lighting which can produce hard shadows, they're using indirect lights by bouncing the light off of materials. The color temperature is also very low at around 3000 or 3500K, which is great for making skin look a lot more healthy and full. This is important because guests will likely feel uncomfortable to be half naked in front of colleagues or friends or maybe even family. Going back to design language again, they're utilizing...
That's right. Now it came back to me. The number one flaw that Morphologis kept on saying about this yacht is privacy. Because literally everything is glass. Well, I mean, like, as you see, like, some of them, most of it has solid doors. But the places that should have the most privacy have glass doors.
The swooping, unbroken lines to create benches, which is just really cool. And here at the end of this hallway, in the preparation area, we've got showers to prepare to go either into the
but there's no privacy between the two showers too. Look at that.
In the hot tub. And that's a pretty good thought and what users will probably need. It is a bit open, which doesn't allow for much privacy if you're naked taking a shower, but let's remember that in this future, they're probably much more comfortable with multiple genders being in the same space naked, and judging by today, we're on a much more voyeuristic trajectory than we would have been in the past. People are much more open about showing off their
2024,
bodies.
guys.
After preparing, they're probably going to walk on over here to the hot tub where the party will continue for some guests who are still awake. This is a pretty cool space. It's got a waterfall and it has a glass bottom into a fish tank, which is a really neat idea. I haven't seen this in the real world, but I'm pretty certain that this has been done at some point for a high-end client. I do like this mosaic on the back wall, but I kind of wish it was one of those big window walls like they have in the bathrooms that are going to be like windows out into the world or virtual environments. Then I would have moved the waterfall to block the entry to provide a little bit of privacy for the users so that they can feel a bit more transported into another universe. Moving from the hot tub and going
that is a really cool
pool,
addition though, the waterfall in the background.
One of the biggest issues I have with the spa, and you may have noticed it earlier in the video. The elevators go straight through it, and the walls are glass, which means that people just entering the ship or leaving the ship could see half-naked people walking through it. That could be kind of uncomfortable because these are two different use cases. There could also just be people bringing food up to the bar here because the service elevator is actually on the right. The solution to this is pretty simple. Just make these glass doors solid instead of transparent, and it's fixed.
Like I said, guys, the places where people are exposed the most and needs the most privacy have the most see-through doors. So as he said, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of glass doors in my opinion. So I personally would have every door solid in my opinion. Unless maybe if I do need to have a glass door, you know that door that was that glass that was next to the shower, like that foggy glass, I would probably add that instead. But either way, I'm not a huge fan.
You don't want to eliminate access because you still want service people to be able to get to the people who are relaxing here to serve them drinks, but just, disconnect that visual connection. Entering the pool area, you'll notice that there are no connections to the outside world. And while this would be pretty neat, it's not necessary, and still it's somehow comfortable. Because I think they've done something clever here and themed it. I suspect the upcast lighting and heavy use of stone is meant to make this feel a bit like an underground cave, and it does it pretty successfully.
It's a cool pool.
If you guys didn't notice it before, I hope you'll notice it now. I'm almost positive this was intentional. The circulation path is a little bit tight. I don't think they should have had this come out quite so far. It would be uncomfortable to walk past somebody here.
Yeah, I mean, that's only space for one person. So, and I have a feeling like if you're trying to get like around them, then you have a really high chance that you're going to fall right into the pool.
Especially if you have people serving drinks who might accidentally trip or slip into the pool. Kind of a small oversight, but we can kind of look past that. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention how these deck chairs are very well integrated once again into the design language here, with the decks becoming the seats. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
but what about
that's
the
pretty
people
cool
who
too.
Make all the magic happen? Well, let's go behind the scenes now and see how their experience is on the 890 Jump. The designers among you will probably notice how different the tone and style of this space is. It's still Origin, you can still tell we're on an Origin ship, however, it's much more muted in tone and the materials are much less diverse. This is intentional because this is a much more utilitarian area. It doesn't have to be very fancy, but it's still very well designed. Here on either side of the cargo bay we have engines A and B, which are still beautifully designed. And in the center of the space, we have what looks to be the central engineering section. Now, the one big design flaw I see about this space is that this is directly accessible to the cargo bay, which is a weak point of the ship. Should this ship be boarded, this would be one of their first targets, and because there's no protection, I would see this as being kind of a big issue.
So
now,
lack of
you may
security.
argue that that's not where people could board, but they also located the gun racks just outside this space in the hallway. This suggests to me at least they thought that this might be the place where they'd want to equip their weapons to defend the ship. So if that's where you're defending from, wouldn't you want to make it a bit more defensible? This glass here in the upper catwalk might have also been removed to give it a little bit better of a defensive position to shoot down on invaders below. Now, to get an idea where we are in...
So basically, if you take over this part of the ship, then you pretty much won already, because there's no weapons or anything else on the ship, and you pretty much control the most critical parts of the ship. So that's it. That's gonna be my strategy. Take over this. Done. Game over.
In case you're curious, we're actually just at the end of that hallway where I said it's crew access only when we came from the hangar section. And to my left here is actually an elevator which will take us to an escape pod, but also to just in front of the spa for the crew members. Now, over here to the right, you'll see a Jeffrey's tube ladder, and through this door, this
well, at least
is
it
where
has
the crew
escape
quarters are,
pods.
but also, one of the coolest features, the battle bridge. This is where you detach the saucer section to activate the multi-vector assault mode of the ship. Okay, I'm kidding. That's from Star Trek The Next Generation. But I really like the way this thing looks. The red
So the thing is, I'm not really a Star Trek fan. I didn't really watch Star Trek, so I didn't get that reference.
lighting is an excellent touch, but it kind of makes me wish we had a button to make this red lighting show up everywhere on the ship so we can have a sort of red alert status for the ship as a whole. This hallway also takes
I actually do agree with that, the red lighting,
as well as to the crew escape pods, which are more basic single-person use. Now, the galley is a pretty cool idea. This is actually meant to serve the restaurant on the upper deck, and there are a lot of little features that they added in here to make it make sense for its particular use case. It seems they had in mind where people would stand, which is a great way to design a space. You design the space around the user, not based on what you think the space should be. This is where the chef would probably stand with the sous chef and other helpers, and as he's preparing food and setting out plates, other members would be down here taking orders from the upper deck and giving them directly to the chef. The one thing I see as kind of an issue here is that the place where they put the preparation stuff is probably not where it would be. They would probably be putting finished plates there and be preparing food more over here to the right. The peninsula would likely instead be used to place finished plates to be loaded onto the cart, which would eventually enter the elevator with a server.
What is that on the cutting board anyway?
Together for the next course. In this level of dining experience, you don't serve course meals separately, you serve them all together so that nobody feels left out. And you'll notice, once again, as I mentioned before, we're going right past the spa, which means that we can be seen by people using it, which is kind of a bad idea.
Yep.
The designer here also thought of having a preparation room for servers, which is very good. This is exactly what you do in a restaurant. You've got an area to take orders, a hot plate area, which is I think what this is, or it could just be a computer terminal. This is where you send the orders down to the kitchen so that they can be brought up, and then you also have a place to store additional dishes in case they're broken for guests. And then this door right here to my left leads out into the bar area and eventually into the dining room.
So quickly
back
and
down into
accessible.
the galley. If we continue through it past the refrigerators, we'll enter now into the crew private living quarters. They've got their own little galley, and they also have their own rest area, which are directly located
that's pretty nice
from their bunks. This is in stark contrast to the 600i, which didn't have any privacy for the crew whatsoever. This is definitely a lot more appropriately designed. Not only that, they're once again employing a sort of language that separates the activity area from the circulation path, which is just good design.
Oh man, I held it in a sneeze.
And the lighting strategy for the eating area is a lot warmer. Check out these bathrooms too. They've got their own communal bathrooms, which can be used individually so that you don't have to be naked in front of other crew members. This definitely gives crew members a lot more comfort. And this makes a lot of sense, because for high-end luxury yachts, crew members are very well paid. In fact, they're probably paid more than me. So they would likely expect to be treated well, and generally they are. They can sometimes receive massive tips too from guests on the yachts and even the owner. The cost of failure...
I mean, I know a few friends that work in restaurants, and sometimes they get tipped really big. I mean, one time my buddy, he was a server at a restaurant. He got tipped $100, and I was like, dang, just for one person? And he's like, yeah. And I was thinking, wow, man, dude. Sometimes, I mean, you have your good days. Sometimes you have your bad days. Some people don't tip at all. Some people tip really well. So it's kind of like a hit or miss when it comes to those kinds of jobs.
Though is pretty high. A misplaced napkin or incorrectly polished fork could result in an immediate firing, and yes, it's that serious.
I do agree with that part though. So sure, it has a lot of benefits. Maybe you have good pay and a lot of comfort here and there. You could be like the best worker there, but however, that can be easily overlooked with one mistake. As you said, one missed napkin, or nothing's polished correctly, or nothing's cleaned correctly, or anything like that. All those, like, maybe all that hard work or years of service that you did could go right out the window, and then they're gonna say we're gonna replace you with someone better. So that's like the downside of these kind of jobs. You could be easily replaced if you just make one mistake, and it does not matter how much good you do.
The bunks themselves are very well treated with nice hideaway storage in the left, some padded walls to the right to acoustically treat the room a little bit better, and the floors are also wood to give it a much more domestic feeling, again using the lighter wood instead of the darker wood to make a smaller space feel larger. You guys remember that door we went through earlier by accident? Yeah, that's how you get to where we just were. You can enter through this airlock where you'll find some EVA storage, and an additional room we haven't seen yet, the crew activity area, which is a good place for them to unwind. I mean, they're
Damn, they could play pool.
This ship conceivably for
Oh, it looks like they have like one of those arcade machines on the left. Nice.
Maybe as much as a month, so it's nice to have some distractions to prevent the crew from thinking too much about murdering the guests. Our last and final stop on this journey is at the helm of this mighty vessel, the bridge of the 890 jump. Now, its central location is no accident. It is one of the most prominent spaces on the ship because it's something that everybody would want to visit. It has power because it is where the ship is controlled, and likely the owner of the ship would pilot the ship at some point. The upper deck has a bit more hierarchy so that if you wanted to address guests as they entered, you'd be a bit higher than them. And no space in this entire bridge is wasted, unlike on the 600i. It's spacious and yet very functional. The globe in
I don't know why, but because the hologram and the round room and all that kind of reminds me a little bit of Mass Effect. Rest in peace, Normandy. Normandy 1, I mean.
The center gives you a readout of what's surrounding you or potentially a nearby planet. And then just on the periphery, we have these curved LCD touchscreens, which I think are a nice addition that the 600i, again, sorely lacked. They do fit within the design language once again, but they're also just darn cool. I want to go up and touch them to fire torpedoes. The look and feel of the space.
I wonder how many people take to
and that's very
just
successful.
take care of one side.
That's exactly what you'd want to see out of a bridge. The materials are luxurious and very fitting for a user who might also be the owner of the ship.
Yeah, everything's presented really well. I really like the material and everything. The design is great.
From the fine details all the way up to the sweeping curves that make its hull, the 890 jump is a success.
890
it's
jump.
Not perfect, but nothing is. Unlike with the 600i, they found the balance between spaciousness and luxury. They found out how to make that language work for them. More importantly, they figured out, though, how to make the program, the circulation paths, and the sizes of spaces all work together successfully. In the 600i, one of the biggest things I didn't like was that crew could be seen moving from the forward part of the ship to the rear. And that is not something you want to see on a super yacht or even a yacht. The crew should only be seen when needed, and that is exactly what they've designed into the 890. Now I understand this won't be everybody's thing. It's kind of a useless ship unless you want the luxury roleplay side of Star Citizen for yourself. But personally, I think I've fallen in love. And
so
I'm going to try to figure out how to get
use
this for
ship.
myself.
Has no tactical or military
one.
advantage.
Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's taken me a long time to put together. Pretty much every day this week I had outside of work at my firm, I've spent on this video, leaving me almost no free time. So if you liked the video, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and also let me know what you thought of the video down below. If you guys want to catch me live, you can find me over on my Twitch channel, which will be down in the description below. I actually gave my first opinion on this ship there, so next time you can catch my opinion ahead of time as I form my thoughts.
Okay.
For an Architect Reviews, I've been Morphologis.
I gotta check him out on Twitch.
And I'll see you next time.
Alright, so that was a rewatch of the 890J or 890 Jump Super Yacht. Like I said, I did watch this video before, but because I was so tired and did all that, I didn't really remember much. And yeah, they didn't really like come to me until the moment I saw it. I was like, oh right, the wood, the space here, the glass doors and all that. So it felt like I was watching this all over again. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, I do apologize for the audio issues, and I know some of you guys did say that you guys can't watch the video because of the audio issue, and like I said, I don't blame you. If I was in your position, I would say the same thing. So, which is why I took down the original video, rewatched the whole thing all over again, and re-uploaded it here, so that way you guys can watch it with. So that way you guys can enjoy the video. I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but anyways, with the audio issues fixed, from now on, the videos should not have any issues. Any videos I did before fixing the audio issue, I do apologize for that. I hope you guys would still enjoy them. But anyways, that's all I got. So again, shout out and credit goes to Morphologis for the video. And I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed the video. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. And shout out and credit goes to all my viewers and subscribers members, subscribers, and viewers. God, I'm sorry guys. Look, it's almost 10 p.m. and I've been up since like 6. I mean, you guys can see how tired I am because I did a lot of recording today. I did a lot of editing, but in my opinion, it's still worth it. But anyways, thank you to everyone, and until then, I'll see you guys next time.